Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting in the studio to be profiled is actress Cindy Morgan and designer Brian Murphy. So let's start with Cindy, who was born and raised in Chicago. She earned her Bachelor of Arts from Northern Illinois University in speech communication, which is really a good basis for acting. But Cindy took her speech training to WSDM FM, the first all-female radio station, where she was a disc jockey. How long were you there, and how did you become a disc jockey?
That's how I worked my way through college. I spent time working on the radio. I told my parents, I'm going to get into show business. You don't have to support me anymore if you don't want to. And they said, bye.
And you got that job?
Yes, I did. I had that job, and I actually worked at 2 radio stations at the same time. That's how my name became Morgan.
This is good.
My real name is Sikorsky, Chihorsky,
which is perfect for Chicago.
Perfect for Chicago, and they said I could keep both jobs at both radio stations if I changed my name at the other one. So at the end, when I finished up there and I sent out resumes, identical resumes with pictures, they thought that Sikorsky kid was okay, but Morgan had a lot more on the ball, and they hired Morgan.
You're kidding. How'd you find Morgan?
A story I read when I was 14 about Morgan Le Fay in King Arthur's court. She was an illusionary and a bad girl, and I kind of liked that.
But that was funny. You sent out the same photograph?
Yes.
Because we were talking before the show how if you change your hair or you do something, no one knows who you are. You've changed completely.
That's true. I've done a lot of different roles in a lot of different films, and people will have to I'll say, well, sure, I did Lacey Underall in Caddyshack. And they'll go, oh, yeah.
And they're not really sure?
And I played the female lead in Tron, and they go, what did you play? And the girl, the only woman in the movie. But I had a helmet on. It was a kind of a different look.
But back to Girls, the female station. How did that happen? Was that an innovative first?
It was. It was a rock and jazz station. My voice was a lot deeper, obviously.
Was it?
And I was a sound engineer. As well, and that was.
You mean you were on the air and you were doing your own audio?
Right. It was so fun. I mean, it's great because you're behind a microphone. Nobody can see what you look like. Nobody cares, and you can come to work any way you want. And it was just, oh God, that was the best time.
But when they say all female, was it just female voices, or was everyone behind the scene female as well?
The bosses were male, but all the women on the air were female up until just when I left. In fact, that's one reason I left. We weren't getting paid that much at the time, and I was doing morning drive, a good slot.
Fabulous slot.
And they took away my overtime and gave it to some guy to do the weekend show, and I went, that's it. I'm getting on a plane and I'm going to Los Angeles.
Well, everyone heard this voice. They never saw a face. How did the face behind the voice actually come out?
I went to Los Angeles after that and decided to work out here. I told people I studied at the Goodman in Chicago. I actually don't know where the Goodman is. It's by
the artist. Just make up all these stories.
I lied. Which is like acting, very much. And came out here and started working. Within 8 months, I got my first film.
Did you have an agent?
Oh yeah. I lied about that too. I called his secretary, and someone actually was supposed to set up an interview so that I could meet him, and they didn't. So I called and I said to the secretary, well, he's expecting a phone call. And she said, well, I don't see you here. And I went, well, then it's your butt. You know, if you want
Did you?
Oh, man, where did I get the gut?
Put her on the line.
So I came in for an interview and thought it was funny. He thought the whole thing was luckily.
That was great. So you just fessed up, told the truth,
yes.
and got an agent.
Had to.
You modeled for a while.
A very short period of time. Modeling I found to be kind of tough because it's not as challenging, and you're hired to be a bowl of flowers, basically.
You couldn't take that with your mouth.
No, I couldn't stop talking. So they said, put her in front of the camera. Yeah.
So you got your agent right away, and then you had this immediate success with Caddyshack.
I was very lucky to get a film like that right in the beginning. My first job with wonderful actors, Ted Knight and Rodney Dangerfield, Chevy Chase, Bill Murray. They locked all these young actors up on a golf course in the middle of nowhere.
I know, but did you have enough experience? Had you gone to acting school?
No.
How did you do this?
Actually, I had studied a bit at the time, and luckily a lot of my background was comedy improvisation, because nobody did anything that was in the script. That script,
oh, really?
in no way resembled the final film. The entire gopher sequence was shot back here in LA. Very often they would turn on the cameras and just say, go, and I'd go, where?
But I think that probably comes from your radio experience,
sure.
having to talk.
Right,
Or kill time. You were telling me one of your guests didn't show up.
I had...
We're back to radio again.
well, actually, this was a short-lived television show I had where I would get guests like, not like this, I would get the Boy Scouts would come on, the farmer with the biggest zucchini in town would show up. And one day none of my guests showed up, but this owner of a German Shepherd, and he was too shy to come on camera, so I did 28 minutes with the dog. I mean, he gave paw and rolled over, and the people behind camera are going like,
a lot more? What are we going to do?
and I'm telling stories about dogs I've had, dogs owned, dogs I've known, dogs I've, and it's
I think this was your acting class.
Yes,
That's
that
why
was
you
my
were able to do that.
Yeah.
You mentioned Tron. So then you got another big movie.
Very lucky again. That was a lot of fun to do. That film, of course, was all shot on black screen. There was nothing there, and none of the special effects were there. So they would say, "Okay, Morgan, you're getting on the Solar Sailor. You're crossing the game sea," and I go, "Wait, just Solar Sailor?"
Yeah, but you didn't know any of this.
No.
So you didn't know black screen, blue screen, anything at that time.
They
did
showed
you?
me pictures of what I was doing, and just guessed.
So you really were, as they say, on the job training. Weren't you?
I would say so. Yeah.
You did a lot of TV. You did
sure.
Matlocks. You did. You've done Larry Sanders.
That was so much fun to do. Those guys are hysterical.
Is it comedy? So you can use your comedy?
Yeah. Very much so. That was a wonderful show to do. It was a live audience. No rehearsal. I had a monologue that I was going to do. I'd never done a monologue. I'm not a stand-up comic. And they
what are you talking about? You can talk for 28 minutes to a dog.
That's true. That's true. You can do just about anything. And they opened the curtain and they said, "Okay, there's your mark." I went, "What? Where's live audience, no rehearsal, and just do it, just wing it."
So you also did a Hunter that we have a clip of. Set us up with that, because I know you've done really a lot of TV, but I think this clip is great.
I like this clip because a lot of times if I'm not doing comedy, I'm playing the bad girl. Or even if it is comedy, it's the bad girl. And this is one of the baddest ladies.
This is the baddest girl?
Yes.
Let's see that.
Like
this
her.
is a clip from Hunter?
Yes.
Okay.
Who?
You remember me. You broke into my house last night and you stole my diamond necklace.
Lady, I've never seen you in my entire life. And I don't break into people's houses.
I want it back.
You are barking up the wrong tree. You and that wire you're wearing.
I'm not wearing a wire.
And I look stupid enough to believe that.
Well?
There's more than one place to hide a wire.
Satisfied?
Well, let's say I believe you're not wearing a wire.
Nobody knows I'm here. I want my necklace and I'm willing to pay for it. $50,000.
Okay, I'll play along with this.
Well, you're a bad girl.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Well, a scene like that for television, you don't actually have to. It looks like I was more.
It looks like you were totally undressed and he was staring you up and down.
Absolutely.
It looked like he was really looking at something. What was he looking at?
Garments that I had rigged up in wardrobe. I made a little thing that fit so that we could shoot from the front.
You did it yourself?
Absolutely.
Or you had them do it?
I'm ready for this. This is, yeah. You don't, because when you're working on a television set and there's 100 people running around in the crew eating donuts, the last thing you need to do
is undress?
Yes. So we just actually rigged garments so that whatever camera angle was there, it looked like what it was supposed to.
He was great. He was like really looking you up and down. He must have been going, what did she put on her?
But that really helps when you have an actor who is that strong working with you. You know, we were just talking during the clip about Juan Fernandez, who did Silent Fury with me. And he's an incredibly powerful actor as well. We had Juan Fernandez, Garrett Morris, Charles Napier, who just came out in Philadelphia.
That was your last project, Silent Fury. It's an independent film.
Directed by Eric Lazell. And one reason I did this film, because Eric is such a wonderful director to work with. He gives so much latitude to the actors. I would take the scenes that we would do as we would do them, and he would let me just go about anywhere I wanted to with him. Tailor the character to myself, speak the lines as I would speak them, and it was just the greatest experience in the world. I had way too much fun.
Was this the kind of role you would choose?
Yes.
Is this it? I mean, do you always want to be a bad guy?
Oh, gosh. I don't know, but you know, when you play the bad girl or the bad guy, it's so much more fun to do. It's because in real life, you can't get away with this kind of stuff.
But is it real? You were on location doing this Silent Fury. That's the independent film. What kind of budget was it?
Gosh, I think about $2 million. And we were in Yuma, Arizona, and Prescott, Arizona.
But that's not very glamorous.
Glamour. Oh, 130 degrees inside in the laboratories. It was crazy. They were just mopping us down so we would look like we were perspiring.
And you had to go through a lot of different kinds of scenes and action.
Bullets flying at me. Juan Fernandez had me at knife point for most of the film.
Juan was on the show, and I've known Juan for a long time. I didn't get to tell you that he was the most brilliant model. Did you know that?
He mentioned that he
was a model in Paris, and I used to see him at the shows, and I used to see him in New York, and he had that attitude. So you dealt with that attitude.
It was great. In fact, in one scene where it's a very critical scene where Juan has me at knife point, dragging me by the hair, and we had been friends. We had carpooled up over to Arizona together, so it didn't have the bite it needed. And we're behind the scene, backstage, just about to come out in front of camera, and I looked at him and I said, "Give me the last line." And he says, "I did this to your girlfriend, and I liked it." And boom, I hit him. And he went, and I said, "Give it to me again." And he said the line again, and I went, hit him again. All of a sudden, you could see the change. You could see his eyes change, and we got the scene down.
So that was perfect.
Yes.
Now, before we leave, tell me what your most wanted, most aspired role would be in acting.
I love to do comedy. There are some wonderful films that are coming out. I've seen about 4 scripts in the last week. All of them look really good, but I think playing the bad girl.
You still like that?
Is where I belong. I've done the Shaggy Dogs. I've done a lot of work for Disney. I love Disney. It's the greatest place to work. But I think when I do something where a character has a bite, has an edge, I don't know, there's that alter ego, Walter Mitty side of me that comes out, and it's the most fun.
That's great, and we're going to watch for you. We're going to say, we knew the baddest girl. Thanks, Cindy Morgan.
Thank you.
And thanks for watching. Don't go away, because we'll be back with designer Brian Murphy. Hi, we're back, and I'm Joan Quinn with Brian Murphy. A Southern California native, although he was born in Seattle, Brian is a runner and a surfer. He's easygoing with a fresh style approach to design. Although he attended and earned degrees at UCLA, Trade Tech in Los Angeles, the Union School for Carpenters, and Orange Coast College, he has never prided himself as an academic. Rather, a hands-on designer with a construction background. You're more than a designer, Brian. You're an architect. You're all of these things.
I guess. I don't know. I've been called worse, I suppose.
What kind of architecture projects have you worked on?
We've done commercial, residential. In most of the work of late seems to be more residential, more West Side, a lot of industry clientele. But we do a lot of bankers and lawyers.
But you really have to know how a person lives to do individual houses, don't you? I mean, you really have to get into their psyche.
It's nice when you get close to somebody, but because the more you know, the better you can address a program and try to design to that. Though there are people who literally have no distinguishing, or very few distinguishing, qualities that differentiate their program from the next person on the street.
But that should be good for you then.
It's a blank canvas. They say, okay, run with it.
Yeah, so that should be great. Then you can really inject your own.
Yeah, but it's more fun when you get to know somebody and you know that they have a quirky sort of side, and you can then address this aspect and sort of celebrate something that does sort of distinguish it some way.
I think talking about quirky, we talk about Brian Murphy. That's a word, quirky, that comes up. So if you have two quirkinesses together, is it going to create? It's good.
There's a dynamic then, I submit.
Were you a designer before you became an architect?
I've been designing since the beginning. I was one of those kids who played with the boxes instead of the toys that came in the boxes, and I've always sort of liked the abstract, I suppose. And yes, and my father was a builder, so I was always around architectural journals and stuff like that. And then I was in and out of school a lot, and then so I was always around it.
So I see where the construction part of it comes from. That was something, I know you have BAM, I always call it BAM construction, but it's really a group of you're the architect, designers, construction people. Why don't other companies make themselves with that kind of structure? I mean, why are there just architects or construction people or design people?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, it seems to me, in terms of, it's a service-oriented business, and if you can do a turnkey sort of service, that makes you more attractive. Now, once again, in the courts, though, just to cut quickly, there's added liability if you are the architect and the contractor, because they expect that the right hand should know what the left hand is doing. So you are more liable than the sum total of the two.
Oh, I see. So you think it's a business point?
Well, in part, but then I submit the flip side is that it takes a long time to learn the mechanics of putting buildings together as a contractor. I mean, to be good at it. And it also takes a while to learn the craft of architecture and in the building departments and the codes and the drafting and whatnot. And most people are not willing to pay that kind of price. I mean, because it's a lot more.
I mean, a person isn't willing to go out and do everything that you've done, the individual, rather than a client coming to you. You're not talking about a client coming to you paying a high price for your services. It's the individual who has to learn the construction business, the architecture business,
well, yeah,
basically.
But given that I grew up holding the dumb end of the stick, sweeping out jobs and stuff like that, I mean, the mystique of construction is much less
I see.
than with most architects. I mean, they're the master builders, but yet, if they were given a skill saw and a framing hammer, it would be difficult for them, I think.
You told me before that you design everything. I mean, landscape design,
sure.
Graphics.
High heels, anything, yeah.
Your desires.
Whatever you want.
But how do you do that for the package, say, landscape? Would you do just a separate landscape job?
Well, usually landscape, I've had people come to me to design landscape irrespective of a building that I didn't build.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Somebody, that new building up over Surfrider Beach, that huge mansion, those people called me to help them with their landscape, not the house.
Well, is that an insult to you?
No, I mean, listen, believe me, I'm just glad to be working steady, And
I'm just wondering if it's like a
No,
different ability.
I'm flattered that the phone ever rings.
What
you
about
know?
graphics? You say you design graphics. How would that fit into your office work?
Well, once again, usually graphics. Usually people don't come to us specifically for graphic, work. But when we did the Doolittle Theater, they came to us with the whole package. It was like the interiors, the architecture, the graphics were part of it, and then we worked with April Greiman, and I was steering the ship there.
I see.
So, and I usually don't want to. I mean, I don't want to get in and buy advertising time, though I would.
But you could do it if you had to.
Sure.
The word Maverick always comes up in your design. Why do they say Maverick about your work?
You'd have to ask.
You don't think it's Maverick at all?
Well, I think in the beginning, the work was perceived as Maverick, if you will, or whatever. I think because we had clients coming to us with the most ridiculously small budgets that one had to be really creative to come up with a solution within those parameters. And so, like in terms of siding, I remember siding a building for this couple in Hollywood, and I told them that this siding is only going to last 10 to 15 years, and they said, that's fine. 10 to 15 years, who knows where we'll be.
I see.
But the end product was wild. It looked like a sort of glorified chicken coop, but they lived in it, and were happy, and it was sort of an elegant space on top of it. I mean, it was designed, and so that's the type of stuff that sells magazines.
So it sells magazines. The other thing is Vanguard. I know Maverick and Vanguard really kind of goes back to the materials that you were using, and this siding of a house is one of those Vanguard type of materials. You brought a project that you wanted to show us.
Well, this is a house. In terms of siding, this little Palladian, it's a sort of a schizophrenic Palladian, I call it. This is a prefabricated barn that you can buy in a kit form that is delivered and installed. This is 9,000 square feet for about $55,000.
So that's very Vanguard.
That's very cheap.
Very cheap.
By anybody's standards. Okay, and so you've got a roof on this very austere site where it gets to be like 120 degrees and gets very cold and has winds and whatnot. So what you've done here is by putting this roof over, you've taken the sun and the rain off the site, ostensibly. So therefore, the demands on the structure itself are greatly reduced. Once again, for $55,000, you've reduced the literal constraints on the habitable space itself. So now you can modify the structure and the cladding of the habitable space to address this more benign environment. And in this instance, this whole building is wrapped in this corrugated fiberglass, a white corrugated fiberglass like that.
Do we have a picture? Is
see
this
there.
kind of...
Yeah. This is, and it's just, the trade name is Oronite. And it glows. And this is a project, this is sort of a precursor to this one, in which this is up in the hills above Hollywood, and the local LAPD steer their helicopters by this building because they call it the world's largest lighting fixture.
So they use it, they go,
because
move to the lighting fixture.
The whole garage glows. It's a 3-story lamp, sitting on the top of a hill.
So this would be used, the same kind of material was used in that?
You're going to drive up this, it sits on 30 acres. And you're going to drive up this big long driveway, and it's going to sit on this precipice, sort of a plinth, and everything underneath it will glow white. And it's really an inexpensive structure. It's like people call it chicken coop architecture, or white trash modern, or whatever.
Is this the same type of thing?
Well, that's the house, but this house was $200 a square foot. I mean, that's
so you can do both.
Oh yeah, we can do. We've done them for $29 a square foot and $200 a square foot. But
and what's the difference about in something like this compared to what you were just talking about? Do you use
that house material? Right there is the garage is the one with the glowing light fixture. So it doesn't have to be Carrara marble. I mean, I like that material with a big budget or a little budget.
I see. You know, architects always say, or we think of architects as always making a statement, making a mark on society, on our culture. Do you look at architecture like that? Are you in for the long run?
I don't think so. I'm too much of a product of Los Angeles, I think, where it's here today and gone, you know, tomorrow. And I submit that, and this is a line that I tell my potential clients too, is that they're already in the sort of top 99 percentile to be able to afford the luxury of engaging in a program like that, which we're about to start. And I tell them that I think that it's incumbent upon us to try to pioneer and try new vehicles, new modes, new materials, whatever. And I'll tell them that I've never done this before, but
you mean using a new material
whatever
would be
it
your
is,
first time in using something?
But every project that we do, we always do something that I've never done before. And I let them be party to the excitement in the creative process there, and knowing that, well, I think it'll work, and it usually does.
So not making a mark,
The
being in Los Angeles and saying, because everything's so temporary, I mean 10, 20, 30 years and it's gone.
Right, I think, you know, and it's I think even your indigenous peoples now, with our earthquakes and whatnot, that people live, I mean, simply. I mean, like, you know, with a benign climate, you don't need stone houses. I mean, you know.
So we're going to have to leave, and I loved all these different kinds of materials. Really quickly before we leave, rattle off a couple of the kind of really bizarre kind of materials.
Well, anything can be a bizarre material. Sticks and mud, you know. I mean, that's what the Native Americans built hogans out of. That was the indigenous architecture of this region. I mean, not adobe houses.
Have you done that yet?
Sticks and mud? I just did sticks in a place right up here in Beverly Hills.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go out, go on the streets, look for anything that looks totally bizarre, Maverick, out of the question, and you'll see Brian Murphy's mark on it. Thanks for being with us today on the Joan Quinn Profiles, and we'll see you next time.